There was people, and then they knew you were coming, Josh. Ah, that's how it goes. Arturo. Yeah, we have Arto, and then we have Arturo. So I'm gonna mess it up either way, just so you guys know, because you're too close together. And I won't do it intentionally. I have this really, really bad habit of thinking about 500 things ahead of time, and then stuff just comes out of my mouth, and I'm like, whoa, what did I just say? And people correct me all the time, telling you meant this, right? Yeah. Right? Yeah. You can come up.
Oh.
You gonna speak too, or no?
I think Josh and Ben.
Josh and Ben are gonna be the speakers. Yeah. Fantastic. Do you guys know what we're covering today? Brian and Mark?
Yeah, rural and kind of different stuff.
Unique properties.
Yeah.
Like, I think what made me think of this is someone came to me, one of our new agents came to me and was like, my buyer's looking at doing a residential property, but they want 80 acres. And I'm like, oh, okay. What type of loan are they doing? Come on in, Josh.
All right.
We have Arjo. I had a whole bunch, but then I think I offended them. Because I told them they had to have their pictures on.
Oh, okay. All right. No,
That's a deal breaker for some people.
Well, it's a deal breaker for me if you want me to teach,
Maybe
right?
they're showering and coming back soon.
Yeah. Here, I'm gonna turn this just a hair.
Oh, okay. Maybe you could back it up here.
Turn it
Come on
back
here,
up.
buddy.
How's that?
Yeah.
There we go.
Can I have my Starbucks?
You can have your Starbucks.
Okay.
We're very casual here.
All right.
Did you bring me one?
No.
Ooh.
No. Here's Arturo. Here, Arturo's on our team. We got Ben
I'm gonna sit
Burgess
over
here. He's my guest of honor.
I was like,
When it
I don't know
comes
who you
to,
are.
yeah, Ben's also on our team. He is our specialist in new construction,
Awesome.
rehab, and unique type of, stuff. So when I'm looking at
All the
property
goofy ones.
and I have questions, Ben, what do you think? So, anyway, so he fields those questions for all of us on our call. So, in terms of unique properties and stuff, gosh, it's hard to know where to start because there's so many different circumstances.
Let's start with the simple. These
Yeah.
guys are used to people wanting to buy a residential home,
Okay.
but maybe like that one, they came in and their buyers in a regular residential home to live in, but they found one with 50 acres.
Okay. So it depends on how much it is, the type of property, what the condition is, are there comps in the neighborhood? You can buy on a conventional loan, a property like that with acreage, as long as there's relevant comps to, to comp it out, to, support that this is consistent in the neighborhood, in the area.
Right.
So you can't have a lean-to, and then, an unlivable house and then have all this acreage. Has to be a livable house, there's gotta be value in the house. But if it comps out with the area, then you can do it.
What if it has an old Christmas tree farm on it?
Depends if it's if there's agriculture, then it's, then it's a different type of loan, maybe a hobby farm loan. Ben, what do you think with that?
Yeah, so one of the main things in terms of picking a loan type that's going to fit a rural property is to remember that when we talk conventional, one of the words we always tie to it is the word conforming. And that means there's a mold that a property either fits, it conforms, or it doesn't conform. And the reason for that is Fannie and Freddie feel most comfortable with what they know. And so that's why they put a lot of emphasis on whether or not a property is normal for the area. So in general, they won't lend on a property that is has its water source, for instance, a cistern fed from a spring. But if all the comps on the appraisal show that the homes nearby have cisterns fed from a spring, then they'll consider that is more in the mold because there's other homes that it is similar to. So what Josh said about what is usual in the area makes a lot of difference. As far as the Christmas tree question, Fannie, Freddie, the conventional GSEs and HUD as well, one thing they are absolutely not going to want to see is that the borrower has a Schedule F. That would be farm income. So if there's any income producing aspects, they're not gonna want to lend on it. And we are gonna need to step outside the box for that, for a hobby farm loan or some other agricultural loan. And that can be a really gray area because there's a lot of people like to have farm related aspects, a couple chickens, pasture for goats, donkey, horse, and those things that can be very okay. And where they typically draw the line is whether or not it is professional in its organization and whether it is income producing. So a couple hogs for personal consumption, not going to be an issue conventionally. But if there's more than you can expect a family to consume, they're going to call that agricultural.
So say if you had like a job on site, right? And then you decide to like raise like, I don't know, 5, 6 pigs, maybe sell them at the farmer's market, you have, they wouldn't go for that, even though you have a side job, like a real job, not necessarily that this is coming solely from, say, like a handful of pigs.
Right, because they're basing it off the property, you know, if the property is income producing. Mhm,
But if someone's purchasing a home,
mhm.
that is acreage and they're not doing anything and it's a standard normal, maybe a couple animals or whatever, right? Just a family-like farm thing for fun.
Mhm.
5 years down the road, they're already purchased, right? And then they turn it into getting more pigs and it turns into a farm. It's not gonna affect the current loan,
Right,
right?
so I mean.
But if
once
they
they're
go to
there,
sell it.
Yeah,
And they sell it as that, now it becomes non-conforming.
Exactly right. Yeah, many people that purchase conventionally cannot refinance conventionally based on how they use the property.
Right, so refi would play into it as well.
yeah, selling it, refinancing.
So
it.
really good information to find out from your clients. What are your what are you looking for? What are your intentions for the property? So then this is where you guys become a value, right? Okay, when they say, well, we're gonna buy it as a regular property, but in a couple of years, we wanna have an alpaca farm, right? Well, if you're gonna turn that into an income producing, and you guys need to refi because rates are going up, what if they drop back down to 2 again? You're gonna have issues refining. That's a value that you can add to your clients, right? And being the person that they wanna use. We just did a class on branding.
Right, okay. Sure. So, I mean, of course, there's programs like Ben mentioned, like we talked about with, you know, the hobby farm program, different types of programs, which may allow for a buyer looking at a property like that to, you know, go ahead and move forward. So one, you know, and I'll let Ben talk about others, but one of the government programs that's actually more flexible in this arena than others is VA. So I did a VA loan for somebody where it was, I believe the acreage was like 35 to 40 acres, had, what is it? Hazelnut trees that we grow in Oregon? Yeah. Had a whole,
Filberts.
yeah, had a whole hazelnut orchard on it, a couple outbuildings, and it was income producing.
Yeah.
And
the VA is like, fantastic, this vet has a job.
yeah, the VA was fine with it. They won't, you know, they won't let you use any of the income towards qualifying.
Right.
And they didn't give any value to the actual orchard, but they would give value to, you know, the outbuildings and stuff like that. So they are okay with something like that. Whereas, you know, maybe like Fannie Freddie might not be, but what are some other alternatives then for other programs?
Other programs, one Josh alluded to is what we call a hobby farm loan. And as with most any loan solution that's outside of the box, that's not conventional Fannie Freddie HUD, The further you step outside the box, generally the loan terms shrink a little bit, and these can be requiring of higher down payments and or higher interest rates, most certainly higher down payments. But they are okay with a more, it's still generally for personal use, but more income producing aspects, not commercial use, not a commercial farm that becomes a commercial loan, but use for personal use of a larger scale on a residential property. So that we have hobby farm solutions, those are fairly common, but again, they usually take a higher down payment and can have higher interest rates. Now, there are a lot of times creative ways to get around that. So a lot of rural properties have more than one tax lot. And it's not uncommon for multiple tax lots to be sold together. And if there's a residence on one tax lot and the bulk of income producing aspects are on another, there's nothing to stop our buyer from conventionally financing the residence and then with a small down payment and then using the bulk of their cash for a cash purchase of the investment earning property. Done that a few times, and it lets us stay in the box and still be able to convey the full property. One thing I want to add, because Josh mentioned the VA loan and its flexibility. One thing that government loans can be more tight on that can impact rural properties is their appraisal condition. And in general, HUD properties, so FHA, they are going to require that any wood on the premises not just be undamaged, but also be treated. So they'll want no unprimed wood, and that will include all the outbuildings. That will include the fences, pasture fences, everything. If the wood is not treated, then FHA will have an issue with that, and will require it to be treated before closing, even if it's not damaged. So that's an FHA specific consideration.
All right, what else? What other questions are out there?
I would imagine like kind of flipping that scenario backwards, you probably have a lot of people that are moving into these rural environments right now. So maybe some of these loans are more frequent right now with people not working in cities as much with COVID. So if you were moving to a place that was a Christmas tree farm and you had no intent of keeping it that, and you just wanted to let it go. So how does it work to move into a lot that was zoned for something, but you don't plan to use it that way? If you're just trying to get more land, like just the safe city and.
Right, so if you want to buy a property, it's got a Christmas tree farm on it, that's an obvious income producing, activity for the current owners.
Yeah.
And your intent is not to keep it that way, cut down all the trees or something or whatever, so.
Come on, let them grow.
Right, just turn it into a forest. I don't know, what do you think, Ben?
It's pretty great, honestly. It's pretty great. So to a degree, it depends on what the appraiser says. It also depends on what the appraiser shows. Appraisers will take pictures, but that won't stop an underwriter also from going to Google Earth and looking at the overhead. And if they see neat and tidy rows in an orchard or of grown produce, and it looks intentional and professional.
Right, might be a duck, yeah.
So the messier it looks from above, the better your chances are of calling it just, sprawling timber. But if it's neat and tidy rows in an orchard, with irrigation lines, that can be hard to work through, and it does become pretty gray, in all honesty.
When you have something like that people are looking at, and this is why when we do the pre-approval, it's good to have somebody local that you're working with, because if you've got somebody looking at these type of properties, we say send it to us first, please, so that we can review it, run it up the chain, and make sure that we sort of vet out any threats that are gonna occur along the way. It's not always even a catch-all, but it's definitely better than going at it blind. So I had one not too long ago where the departing resident had put in a koi pond and was selling koi fish out of the residence. Well, the guy buying it wasn't interested in growing koi and selling it, so he was going to get rid of them. Well, it pops up on the appraisal, and even though we had looked at it in advance, and we had his letter of explanation, everything like that, the investor on it was pushing back on it, saying that no, this is a mixed use property. Now it's income producing. We're not gonna do it. And it was a huge battle to overcome this. We got it done finally, but it wasn't easy. And so definitely reach out to us in advance so that we can go through these with folks first. So that you get a different set of eyes looking at it. And even when you send them to us, I may send it to Ben, I may send it to, other people so that we can all look at it and be like, okay, here are the things that we need to look out for. Here are the threats, so on and so forth. So,
Josh, can you comment on that koi pond, whether it was a pond that looked scenic and part of the landscaping, or whether it was a stock pond that looked more industrial?
It was sort of a middle of the road. Like, it was in the middle of the property. It was scenic and it looked nice, but there was more fish in it than perhaps just, a couple dories scrolling around,
Those
swimming,
aspects really matter.
looking pretty, right? So it was sort of both. The property, fortunately, was less than 5 acres. So, it's not like the whole property was, income producing. But there were some challenges with that. So yeah, it was definitely, questionable, but we were able to push through. So he moved in and got rid of the koi. So
Got rid of the coin.
yeah. So yeah. What else? What other questions are out there? Any manufactured home questions?
They can't sell them unless it's on permit.
Yeah, it's
We're
gotta be
telling
on
this over and over.
it's gotta be on a permanent foundation.
Has to be tied down.
So then what's the year, what's the oldest one?
76,
19
July.
Oh, is it 76?
1976, but what is it for USDA?
USDA has to be brand new. USDA will place
Oh, wow.
manufactured homes, but they don't really like to be in existing manufactured homes on the guaranteed product.
And it can't have been moved more than once, right? Or it has to one time?
Right, so 1976 for most of your, conforming lending products. VA is the only one that allows you to buy manufactured home that has been moved more than once. So VA does not have a disqualification for that, but everyone else, but again, and to your point, Tanya, is, as you're guiding your clients, you may be a VA buyer, but when you go to sell this property, it's not going to be very marketable, right? So you may be able to buy it, but when you go to sell it, you're only gonna be able to sell it to somebody else with VA loan,
That's right.
or cash. And so how marketable is it gonna be? But they do exist. They have to be on a permanent foundation. What else, Ben?
So the magic of the 1976 date is that's when HUD started standards for manufactured homes. And it's not just the construction date, it's really the standards that are important. And there's a HUD stamp typically on the back door of the water heater door or on the back of a cabinet in the kitchen that essentially shows who manufactured the home and attests to the fact that it abides by those standards. So theoretically, there could be a manufactured home built after 1976 that wasn't certified by HUD, or that may still have an automotive title, because generally they put an automotive title on them to move them from the manufacturer to their final destination. And so lenders, we will look for the HUD stamp. We'll also look for a data plate. that's usually on the foundation. Both those aspects have to be there. And then one that I heard again just last week, a lender at another institution got tripped up on this one, engineer certifications.
Yeah.
So a lot of manufactured homes are placed because they're affordable at purchase, but then they improve them. They want to make it their own. So they add a porch, a deck, something that's attached to the structure that happened after its original certification. And because it's not covered under HUD's manufacturer standards, lenders do generally require, FHA now included, that an engineer certifies that any improvements were done to code. So I heard another institution, this was on a transaction uphill from a purchase I was working on that was bringing in funds for my closing, and that lender hadn't checked for the engineer certification on assumption that they didn't need it. And then they had to do it at the 11th hour. So that is one thing that can be missed. That's also very important. So if your sellers have a deck or a porch on their manufactured home, be sure to see if the county has permitted it, and then you can have that information in hand so that whether or not the buyer's lender thinks about it, you'll be prepared.
What else?
So yeah, unique properties.
Unique properties. What are some things you guys have seen out there, heard about, or, Tony?
Timber,
Timber?
right? Yeah, properties that have, gosh, it's been a while since I've seen one of those with Peter. They have timber that that can be leased or sold off, or it has to sit for so many years before it can be sold off. I've seen that before.
Timber? Have you run into timber issues, Ben?
That's typically more an issue on refinance, which would impact you less. If there were a lease in place to a farmer who was harvesting timber from the homeowner's property, any income derived from that could hurt their refinance opportunities. But that's something that's not as glaringly obvious on a purchase transaction, unless the lease conveys.
Right.
If there's a lease on the land that a farmer has that would transfer with the property, that could be an issue.
Got it. Okay.
We didn't have that one time.
Yeah, no.
Probably a little more timber issues there.
Yeah,
No reason to not chop down the timber.
right. What else? Hey, Anna, welcome. You got any unique property questions out there?
No, not for the USDA HUD loans. I just had some other issues, but I'm ironing them out as I learn. Yeah.
Welcome to real estate, right? There's every transaction's unique.
Oh, yeah. Wow. And I'm learning a lot, and I
Yeah.
really like it. And I got good support back on my back. So that's good.
Good. How about you, Ardo? Any weird property stuff pop up recently?
Not yet, Josh, but what would be a place for us to go get some kind of basic idea or like basic understanding of the requirements? Like, are there some sources where you can send us so we can save you time?
If they have a question, maybe someone that you just go.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got questions on properties, it's best to just reach out to us, because there's so many different guidelines for each different loan program. It's really impossible. There's not like really a condensed version out there, other than, of course, you can Google stuff, but sort of like Dr. Google, you're not going to always get accurate information.
What?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, maybe that wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. So it's best to just really sort of reach out, let us do a little research, provide us the information. We're going to ask you questions that are probably over and above what you had originally came to us for, but it's because we need a little bit more information to dive into it. And our answer is probably going to always start with, well, it depends. And and then we're going to ask you a bunch of questions, and we're going to go do some research, and then we'll follow back up with you, because it truly does depend. Every situation is unique. It's got its own, intricacies, and we want to make sure that we're setting up you and your buyers or sellers, depending on the situation, for success, and not putting up anybody in a position to where, it's going to be an issue later on. And so, definitely reach out, and we're happy to, answer any questions that that you guys have. We've got guidelines for stuff, and certainly depending on the situation of your borrower or seller, we're happy to provide some of those, and say, okay, here's what it says for this, situation. And then we can talk through that, some more as well. But even if you were to Google guidelines, a lot of times they will publish the guidelines, but then also there are updated bulletins that come out from the, from FHA, VA, Fannie, Freddie, that necessarily aren't part of the actual guideline. It's like it's like they staple it into the notebook later. So, these things you just got to be really careful of. And please reach out anytime with that type of question. So even if it's not something that we're doing, we want to be a resource for you.
Yeah, you guys have talked about having your team, right? Everybody, every single agent needs to have their team. And your team doesn't have to be other agents or an assistant. Your team is your escrow officer of choice, your lender of choice, and having them and creating a relationship with them, whether it's Josh or Arturo or maybe even Ben, or anybody else, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be these guys, although they are fantastic and worked through some amazing transactions with Josh personally on the cart group. But having that relationship allows you then the ability to reach out to them on the weekend, whether it's, I've got Josh on speed dial over here, or email, right? And the difference in creating that relationship and working with each other is gonna make it a lot easier for Josh to want to answer right away, right? Versus someone you have no idea, you've never met before, and you just ask them a question, well, they might not even answer you till for a week, right? But create that relationship, create that team, and then also, going back into our branding stuff, use that, put them in your buyer presentation, put them in your seller presentation as part of your team that you have. The more people you have surrounding you in expertise, the more value you bring your clients.
Absolutely. I mean, as you guys are out talking with folks, or as you have certain initiatives that you're looking at, if you are doing social media, if you're doing email campaigns, or you're just passing out flyers, we've got a ton of different flyers and social media content that we can provide. We just put your information on it, your picture, your logo, whatever the case may be, send it to you, and you can utilize it. There's no cost to the agents to do that. It's a lot of great resources that you can utilize. To folks, to your team point. We work as a team, as well, and that's why we have all of us here, as a resource, because it's impossible for everybody to know, one person to know everything. So,
That's right.
you gotta have those resources. So please reach out anytime, and we're happy to be a resource for you. And yeah, definitely, if you've got, like Arto asked about, is there places that you can go for certain, things? We have flyers that do talk about sort of basic property requirements. That we can certainly put your branding on. You can utilize that. We've got one for, appraisal preparation. You can put your stuff on there. You can pass it to clients. Say, hey, here's some things, as a seller, you should probably start, making sure your house is, is ready for, because here's some of the, typical things you're going to look at, makes you look like a professional. You got your picture on it, so on and so forth. So, a lot of great resources, reach out. We're happy to say, yeah, we can put something like that together for you. So no problem. Oh. What
I
else?
know it wasn't gonna be a long class, but it's an important class,
Yeah,
right? To
Absolutely.
know and understand that there are certain conversations you have with your clients that could trigger, that is not a normal loan. We need to have you talk to your lender about your intentions with the purchase that you're doing. And is your loan gonna work for it, right? Or that you need to have more down payment. And you get people all the time, "Well, I just want to buy land. You know, how much do I need down?" Well,
Right.
you buy a piece of land with no property on it.
Yeah, it's a different thing. It's normally you're gonna, if you're buying just bare land, I mean, generally your minimum land lender is gonna want 20% down at a minimum,
Yeah.
someone a little bit more, depending on qualifications, so on
Right.
and so forth.
It's always, that depends on.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, sorry, yeah.
I tell my daughter that all the time, well, it depends.
But we work with some great land lenders as well. Some folks now, if you're gonna buy it sort of an all-in-one, it's a construction deal, and that's someone I'm gonna say, hey, let's connect you with Ben. He's
Hey,
gonna help you with
Ben.
that. So we're gonna talk through that, because those have their own unique challenges for doing that. So yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely.
Cool.
All
Thank you
right.
for coming.
Yeah, I
Thank
guess we
you.
can wrap it up. If there's
Appreciate
no
it.
other questions, reach out to any of us anytime. So
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you very much.
thanks, guys.
Thanks, Dr. Burrow.
Yeah.
Just stand here and look pretty. I like it. A different language, you speak a different language,
Yeah, I
right?
speak Spanish, so if you guys know anyone that needs a Spanish speaking lender, feel free to reach out.
Should have took you with me on my trip.
Where did you go?
I went to Honduras. I went to Roatan, and the guys on the boat, the dive masters, they're just, when they weren't talking to us, they were talking over here in Spanish, and I'm just like, do you understand what we're saying? I said, little tiny bits.
They speak a lot faster than when you.
Oh my
Spanish
gosh,
class.
like, I never took it. But I have friends. You guys, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for coming on the video. I really, really appreciate it. Anna, it's lovely to see your face as always. We'll see you guys next week if you don't come in tomorrow. Kelly's gonna go in further, and we'll be back in here in this room Wednesday at noon. Groups, all the group coaching is Wednesday at 1:00, and then every Thursday, noon to 1 is, what are we doing next week? Social media profiles. And so if you guys need to learn how to do that, you can come to my class. And then after that is, Austin, are you there?
Yes.
What's next Thursday, Mastermind?
Oh, shoot.
It's a title, I think it's a title company. I need to
Yeah.
double check.
It's
But
right here. It is How to Read Title Prelim Report with Shelley.
oh, Shelley's coming. Awesome. She's fantastic. This is also a great way to find an escrow officer that you want to work with. Shelley's been around a really long time, and she's very knowledgeable and great. And so that coming to that and meeting them, it could be on your team, right? So, okay. I'll see you guys next week.
Okay, bye, bye.
Bye.